They say you shouldn't hike Black Hollow alone. They say that even the air there watches. I've guided people into those woods for nearly 16 years, and I'll tell you right now, those sayings are true. The Hollow doesn't care who you are, how much gear you've packed, or how many mountains you've summited. It only cares that you follow the rules. That's where I come in. My name's Elijah Reed. I'm a licensed wilderness guide, certified EMT, and third-generation Blue Ridge native. I'm not a mystic. I don't see ghosts. I've never heard voices. But I have seen a man vanish mid-step, and I've walked out of the forest with fewer people than I went in with. Not because I led them wrong, because they didn't listen. See, there's a patch of unmarked land deep in the range, past where the tourist trails stop, deeper than the game paths, a place that no satellite map ever really gets right. It's old, not haunted, not cursed, just unforgiving. It's called Black Hollow, and it follows a law of its own. Before every trek, I give the group a laminated card. The rules are always the same. They are never added to or taken from. I give each hiker a copy before we step onto the trail. I say, these rules aren't for your imagination. They're not optional. They're not flexible. They are the only reason you will come back. Some groups take them seriously, some don't. The ones who don't usually lose someone. So here they are, my record. Each group, each rule, one by one. 8 trips into the Hollow. 8 warnings. 8 lessons learned too late. These aren't the only encounters I have had with the rules, but these are 8 different instances where the rules weren't followed. Read them, and if you ever find yourself on the Hollow's path, pray you remember them before the wind goes still. The rules. Rule number 1. If you hear someone calling your name from off trail, do not answer. Do not go looking. They are not lost. Rule number 2. If the wind stops completely, everyone must sit down. Do not speak until it returns. Rule number 3. At dusk, always light a fire, even if it's hot, even if there's no wood. If you don't, you'll lose the trail by morning. Rule number 4. Do not whistle after dark, not ever. Rule number 5. If you come across a pile of rocks with a hole in the center, step around it. Never look inside. Rule number 6. If you see a deer standing in the trail facing away from you, wait. It's not a deer. Rule number 7. Never point out anything strange to another hiker. If they see it, they see it. If not, let it be. Rule number 8. Leave a gift at the last trail marker before you exit. Always, no exceptions. Here is one of the encounters with rule number 1. If you hear someone calling your name from off trail, do not answer. Do not go looking. They are not lost. They came in 2 trucks. One was rust red, the other a rental. I watched them roll into the gravel lot just after sunrise. 6 people total, fresh-faced and too loud for the stillness of morning. They were church friends, they said. Old friends, I gathered. Not young, not reckless, just unaware. People who hadn't been broken in yet. 3 men, 3 women, all mid-30s to early 40s. 2 married couples, and a pair of singles who everyone pretended weren't interested in each other. It was June, still cool in the mornings. The dew hung on the grass like breath. I had the cards ready, laminated and clipped together with a binder ring. I'd printed them myself the night before. The words never changed. I met them at the edge of the lot near the worn trailhead, where the gravel thins out and the green begins. Morning, I said. You can call me Elijah. I'll be your guide for the next 4 days. Before we start, there's something you need to read. I handed out the cards one by one. They flipped them over. I waited. Are these real rules? Asked a guy named Trevor, tall, balding, with bright white trail runners. They're the only ones that matter, I said. Kara, one of the wives, read Rule 1 aloud. If you hear someone calling your name from off trail, do not answer. Do not go looking. They are not lost. She chuckled, glanced at her husband. Creepy. You write these? I don't write them, I said. I follow them. You should too. There was a pause. Then the group laughed it off. Nervous, light-hearted, not unkind. just skeptical in the way suburban adults tend to be when nature still feels like something you visit, not something that can keep you. I didn't press. If they were going to learn, the hollow would do the teaching. We entered the forest at 8:17 a.m. The first day passed without trouble. I kept us on the ridgeline above the creek, which forked twice around a soft-banked bend and fed into a gully where I liked to camp on the first night. We saw deer, real ones, 24 of fawn. Their heads jerked up as we passed but didn't bolt. The air smelled clean, sharp with fur. By nightfall, the group was tired but in good spirits. They sat around the fire, eating rehydrated meals and passing around a plastic bottle of cheap bourbon that someone had wrapped in socks to hide from the weight-conscious packers. I didn't drink. I watched the tree line. That night, nothing called out. The second day took us deeper into the hollow. I kept to a path few others knew, one that curved inward behind a moss-covered shelf of stone and descended along a fault line that didn't show on any topo maps. The silence grew thicker as we went. By mid-afternoon, we hit a stretch I always dreaded, the switchbacks beyond the eastern shelf. The trees grow dense here. Close together, the light changes, and the wind doesn't behave like it should. I usually avoid camping anywhere near it. But that day, one of the women, Laura, rolled her ankle on a root and we had to stop early. She was fine, sore, embarrassed, nothing torn. But the sun was dipping and I wasn't going to risk walking the fault line in twilight, so we made camp in the bowl between the two ridges. At dusk, the wind picked up, soft, cool, whispering through the pines like a voice muffled in fabric. We lit a fire, ate in silence. Even the bourbon stayed capped. They were tired, but the forest wasn't. It started just after midnight. I was awake. I don't sleep much on hollow trips, not because I'm scared, but because the woods don't feel empty here. It's like they lean in closer while you rest, like they want to see your dreams. I heard the crunch of boots in the leaves first, not fast, not urgent, just walking. Then the voice, Trevor. It came from off trail, west side, just past the slope. Trevor, can you come here? It was a woman's voice, soft, gentle, measured, like she didn't want to wake anyone else, like she knew exactly which name to say and how to say it. In the dark, I saw Trevor sit up in his tent. He unzipped it halfway and leaned out. I stood silently and shook my head. He froze when he saw me. The voice came again. Trevor, it's me, Kara. I need you to help me, please. That's when Kara sat up in her tent across the fire ring and said, What? Trevor blinked. Kara, I'm right here, she said, pushing out of her sleeping bag. Please, Trevor, said the voice. Just a minute, it's important. I stepped forward and crouched beside his tent. Do not answer it, I whispered. Do not speak. Do not move. He stared at me. It wasn't confusion on his face. It was conflict, like his body was being pulled in two directions. The voice was calm, persuasive, just familiar enough to bypass suspicion. I grabbed his wrist. Trevor, look at me. What's rule 1? His mouth opened. The voice was closer now. Still off trail, still calm. Trevor, just a step. I fell. I'm hurt. Kara stood now, arms crossed. What the hell is going on? She's right there, I said. And she was. The real one. The voice? That was something else. Don't go looking. They are not lost, I said. Trevor sat back, numb, pale, but awake now. The voice didn't speak again, but we heard it walk away. 1 step, 2, then nothing. Not a rustle, not a branch, not a breath. Just the fire, flickering weakly in the middle of us. Kara stared at Trevor. I heard it too, she said, voice flat. I know, he whispered. The others hadn't woken, or if they had, they didn't say a word. In the morning, we broke camp early. Trevor didn't speak until noon. We made it out of the hollow with all 6. It was one of the few trips that ended without loss. Trevor gave me a handshake at the trailhead that lingered longer than it should have. "Thank you," he said, "for not letting me answer." I nodded. "You heard it, didn't you?" I did, and it knew my name. It always does. He didn't ask anything else. Didn't want to know. Just got in the truck and left. The next group came a week later. They'd get the same rules, different names, same lesson, because the hollow never changes. And rule 1 is always the same. Rule number 2, if the wind stops completely, everyone must sit down. Do not speak until it returns. They were medics. 4 of them, from a trauma unit in Richmond. It was meant to be a decompression hike. No pagers, no codes, no machines screaming people toward death, just boots and trees. Just time to breathe. They called themselves the Core 4, had matching patches on their packs with a cartoon skull holding a stethoscope, worn in boots, smart layers, quiet confidence. Ben was the tall one, slow-talking and easygoing. Micah was shorter and quick-witted, the kind of guy who looked relaxed even when thinking 3 steps ahead. Teresa had a hard edge. She checked everything twice and walked like someone who'd hauled stretchers in the dark. Then there was Lacey. She was quiet, serious, but with the kind of face that told you she'd been in the room for every kind of goodbye. I met them just after dawn. They were early, organized. No questions about terrain or trail difficulty. They just wanted to be out there. I handed them the rules. Micah read them aloud. Rule 2 drew a few looks. If the wind stops completely, everyone must sit down. Do not speak until it returns. Ben blinked. Like, no wind at all? None, I said. You'll feel it. Teresa didn't laugh. She folded the card and tucked it into her jacket. Okay, she said. What happens if you speak? You disappear. Lacey looked me straight in the eye and nodded once. That was enough. We started down the trail. For 2 days, the hollow was steady. Cool mornings, warm afternoons, and the kind of bird song that echoed faintly between the ridges. The group moved well, efficient, quiet, patient. They didn't linger, didn't talk over the forest. We made excellent time. They built fire each night with the ease of people who've shared field rations and bad coffee in worse places. Ben sang under his breath once while setting up camp. Lacey glanced at him. He stopped, not in fear, just understanding. They were that kind of crew. It was early on day 3 that the wind began to falter. We were halfway through a gully cut by years of snowmelt, tall trees overhead, sunlight pooling in narrow beams. The trail narrowed, shouldered by uneven rock and the kind of moss that soaks through your soles. The breeze had been steady all morning, a low, clean movement that stirred the pine smell just enough to keep it fresh. Then, as we reached the bend in the trail, it stopped, not faded, not slowed, stopped, no rustle, no breath. The trees froze like statues, the birds cut off mid-note. It was like the forest held a breath and forgot how to release it. I stopped walking, sat down in the dirt, didn't say a word. They followed immediately. All 4, no panic, no confusion. Micah looked at me, wide-eyed, but didn't speak. Teresa closed her eyes. Lacey stared straight ahead. Ben pressed his hand to the ground like listening for a pulse. Minutes passed. How many, I can't say, but the stillness thickened. It wasn't oppressive. It wasn't heavy. It was aware, like something was looking for movement, like the hollow had closed its eyes and opened its ears. One twig snapped. We all turned our heads, barely breathing. It was a squirrel, mid-step, frozen between 2 branches, unmoving. Even the animal knew. Then, Lacey flinched. Not much. Just a sudden jerk of her eyes to the left. Micah noticed. He turned and whispered, "What is it?" I closed my eyes. No, but it was too late. Lacey turned to him. Her mouth moved. I reached for her hand, but there was nothing to reach for. She was gone, just like that. No wind, no sound. 1 second she was there. The next, just an empty patch of dirt. The hollow didn't scream, didn't gloat. It just took. Ben bowed his head. Teresa didn't move. Micah put both hands to his face and didn't cry, just sat there, waiting. After 4 more minutes, the wind returned. It moved through the trees like a sigh. The squirrel blinked, jumped, birds chirped. A single leaf tumbled down, soft and slow, landing exactly where Lacey had been. We stood, wordless. Ben picked up her pack and shouldered it. Teresa adjusted her gait to fill the gap. Micah didn't speak the rest of the day. We walked out 2 days later. No one had to say it. The silence had rules, and Lacey had paid for breaking them. Rule number 3, at dusk, always light a fire, even if it's hot, even if there's no wood. If you don't, you'll lose the trail by morning. They were the prepared ones. You know the type. New boots already broken in, trail journals half filled before day 1, bear spray clipped like jewelry, satellite communicator fully charged, and named something like Betsy. They weren't weekend hikers or doomsday preppers, just smart people who'd done enough miles to respect the land, and were smart enough to know they didn't know everything. 3 of them this time. A couple, Marcus and Renee, early 40s, both civil engineers, and their friend Elijah Jr., which made for some awkward conversations until we settled on calling him Junior. He was a high school biology teacher, wiry and calm, with eyes that lingered too long on tree bark and lichen. Nature guy, quiet but not weird. They met me at the gravel lot with punctuality I hadn't seen in years. No rushing, no delays. They even brought fresh-baked granola bars and offered me one without fanfare. "I'm serious about these," Renee said. "You'll never go back to store-bought." She was right. I haven't. After gear checks and rote confirmation, I gave them the laminated cards. They read them with care, all 3. Junior was the first to ask. "These are legends, right? But based on something real." "Not legends," I said. "Laws. And they're based on what happens when you don't follow them." They didn't laugh. That was new. Renee tapped Rule 3. Even if there's no wood, even then, even if it's hot, especially then. Marcus squinted. "But if the ground's wet and you can't, then you find a way." I didn't need to say more. They nodded, and we began. The first day was smooth. They were deliberate, measured, paced themselves better than any group I'd led that year. We stopped for water, kept quiet when the birds did, and made camp with enough light to check the perimeter properly. I liked them. They treated the forest like something living. That's the only kind of person who stands a chance in Black Hollow. The first night was uneventful. They built the fire without me reminding them, ate in silence, shared stories, then turned in early. No one heard voices, no one wandered. The second day took us deeper, south slope, past the ash fall grove and into the crook of the range where the trees twist tighter. The canopy thickens here, turning daylight into something that has to earn its place between the branches. We found the clearing just before dusk. Wide, flat, sheltered by stone. The kind of place that invites you to rest. That was the danger. It was warmer than usual, unseasonably so. I remember wiping sweat from my neck while we dropped our packs. Marcus stretched. "Feels like August." Junior set down his bag. "Ground's damp too." I looked at the sun. It was already dipping low, orange brushing the canopy. "Start the fire," I said. Renee knelt to check the ground. "Nothing dry here." "We've got chips," Marcus offered. "Those tortilla things we didn't finish won't be enough." I reached for the sealed fire kit in my pack. "We've got options." Junior hesitated. "It's going to be close to 80 degrees tonight. We'll be sweating in our tents." "Still need it." Renee raised an eyebrow. "To keep animals away? To stay on the trail?" She paused. "I'm sorry?" I stood, eyes on the horizon. "If we don't light the fire, the trail won't be here tomorrow." They looked at each other. This time there was uncertainty, not mockery, not dismissal. Just that basic human flaw, weighing comfort against effort. Marcus smiled. "I mean, we've made 2 perfect days. What are the odds?" I crouched by the fire ring and started unpacking the kit. I don't deal in odds. I deal in outcomes. It took nearly half an hour. The wood was damp, the brush was soggy, but Junior was resourceful. He carved out a dry channel under a stone lip and started a base flame from dryer lint he'd packed in a pill bottle. By the time the flames took, the moon was up. We sat beside it, didn't speak, didn't need to. The fire burned low but steady. I watched it like a man watches his own pulse. Renee looked over once and whispered, "If we didn't, what happens? You wake up off trail, that's it?" "No." She waited. I didn't say more, and she didn't press. The third night was different. We camped by the rise near Owl's Spine Ridge. It was hotter than ever, sticky, airless. Mosquitoes that shouldn't have been active at that altitude buzzed low and slow, and the ground was damp in all the wrong places, moist where it should have been dry, sour where it should have been clean. We made camp, and I was tired, bone deep. I set the perimeter, checked the sky, dusk, but I didn't speak, didn't remind them. They knew. I laid back near my tent, eyes closed, letting the heat bleed off my skin. I heard them talking, quietly, 50 feet away. Something about saving fuel, something about it being the last night, something about how we've done it so far. I sat up. The fire ring was cold. Renee looked over. "We figured it'd be okay, just this once." Junior nodded. "The wood's soaked, we just waste everything." I opened my mouth, but it was too late. The sun was gone, and the fire wasn't burning. I didn't yell, didn't panic, just stood up, slowly. "You need to light it now," I said. "Right now." Marcus stepped forward. "Come on, you said it yourself. It's not superstition, it's protocol. We followed every other one." I looked at him. "You broke rule 3. Renee's face shifted. Not fear, regret. She turned to Junior. "Do you have—" But the matchbox was already soaked. The chips were gone. The lint was spent. There was nothing dry left. I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. We sat in the dark, waiting, and the trail went quiet. Not the animals, not the trees, the trail. That pulse beneath your boots, that line your body follows without thinking. The thing that leads you forward even when you're tired, even when you're half lost, that vanished. It was like standing in a house after the foundation had been removed. Still walls, no floor. The hollow didn't make a sound, didn't move, just shifted. When morning came, I checked the compass. Broken. The moss on the trees had reversed. Even the sun looked wrong, rising just a few degrees off where it should have been. Junior tried to retrace our steps, but there were no steps. The trail wasn't gone. It never existed. Marcus walked east. We watched him go. He didn't scream, didn't call. He just vanished into the green like water into thirsty dirt. Renee didn't speak for hours. We made camp again, built a fire. Even in the heat, the flames barely caught, but they held. The next morning, the trail was back, exactly where it should have been. Junior stood with the compass in one hand, crying silently. Renee left a bracelet on the fire ring before we moved. No one spoke on the way out. When we reached the parking lot, she hugged me, not out of gratitude, out of guilt. "I knew better," she said, "but I was just tired." I nodded. "Don't come back," I said. She didn't. Junior mailed me a letter months later. It was empty, just a photo of the fire he built on his own backyard patio, flames burning steady, no caption. That's all it takes sometimes. Just one night, one rule broken, and you lose the way out. Rule number 4, do not whistle after dark, not ever. They were siblings, 3 of them. 2 brothers and a sister. Their last name was Croft. I remember because they signed the waivers as a unit, the Croft siblings, hiking party of 3. There was Gabe, the oldest, square-jawed and serious in his early 40s. Lydia, the middle one, tall, sarcastic, could have been a librarian or a bar bouncer depending on her mood, and the youngest, Nate. He was 32, lean, always fidgeting. The kind of guy who needed to be moving or humming or snapping gum to keep his thoughts from spinning out. They said they used to go camping every summer growing up, And now, with their parents gone, they were reviving the tradition. Lydia had found me online. She requested a real trail, something that reminded them who they were. I gave them the rules at the trailhead. Same cards, same words, same warning. They read them carefully, all three of them. No jokes, no laughter, but no fear either. Just the quiet confidence of people who'd survived grief and thought they could handle anything. Gabe folded his card and stuck it in a waterproof sleeve. Lydia clipped hers to the top of her pack. Nate whistled. One low note, short, casual, automatic. Then he caught my expression. I didn't raise my voice, just said, "Don't do that again, especially not after dark." He laughed. "Okay, sorry, reflex." "It won't be the last time your reflexes try to kill you," I said. "Let's go." The first 2 days were smooth, better than smooth. They worked as a unit, set camp fast, rationed well, moved with a rhythm that felt earned, not practiced. They knew how to read the sky, knew when to stop talking. Even Nate, once the hiking high wore off, settled into a sort of cautious quiet. He took the rules seriously. They all did. At night, we kept the fires lit. Lydia read aloud from an old notebook of her dad's, a journal full of trail dates and weather notes from years gone by. Gabe polished a battered steel flask, but never drank. Nate poked the fire with sticks and told old stories about their dog growing up. It was peaceful, and it held, until the third night. That day we'd pushed a little too far. The weather had held, but the air was heavy, like the mountain was holding its breath. We'd made it to the base of Hollow Ridge by dusk, and I made the call to camp just inside the pine hollow, dense cover, flat ground, and a good fire ring from an old campsite I trusted. We lit the fire, ate light, turned in early. I woke up at 2:14 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I checked my watch out of habit, and the second hand had stopped. Just for a moment. Then it ticked again. Outside the tent, the fire had burned down to coals. The wind was still moving, soft, pine-sweet, alive. But something was wrong. I felt it in the way the trees leaned, in the way the shadows curved inward instead of outward. And then I heard it. A whistle. One clear note. It cut the night like a splinter under skin. I unzipped my tent slowly and rose. The fire pit flickered red. Gabe was standing just beside it, still as a statue. His mouth was open slightly, like he'd been about to speak. Lydia was frozen, staring at Nate. Nate sat on a fallen log, whittling something in his hands, whistling, not a tune, just one slow note, then another and another. Soft, aimless, mindless, like a breath through teeth. I moved toward him, fast, quiet. I didn't yell, didn't give him time to snap out of it. I clapped a hand over his mouth. He startled, jerked like I'd hit him. "What?" he whispered. "You're whistling." He blinked, then his face went pale. "I didn't mean to." "I know, doesn't matter." We both looked toward the tree line. The wind had stopped. The trees no longer moved. The fire was dying. Lydia stepped back from the coals. "You said never after dark." "I did," I said. "What happens?" "I don't know, but it's always someone." We stayed up the rest of the night, all four of us. No one spoke again, not until light touched the tree line. And then we saw it. Not a body, not blood, just the shape. A wide, clean circle of disturbed dirt about 30 feet from camp, like someone had knelt there all night, like something had listened. Nothing else was disturbed, but the woods had shifted, slightly, indelibly. Nate didn't whistle again, not even when we reached the parking lot 4 days later. Gabe didn't speak at all the last day, and Lydia left the journal on the final fire ring, right on top of the blackened stone. We didn't say goodbye, just nodded. They drove off in silence. I burned the rest of the wood, alone, and didn't hum, not even once. Rule number 5, if you come across a pile of rocks with a hole in the center, step around it. Never look inside. It was a reunion hike. That's how they described it. Old college friends, 4 of them, getting the gang back together for a real trail before they turned 40. They'd done weekend hikes before, the kind with trail mix and too much wine in metal canteens. But this time, they wanted wilderness, quiet, the kind of quiet you feel in your chest. Their names were Felix, Ronan, Bree, and Ava. Felix was the planner. He'd booked the trip, emailed me 3 times with questions about elevation, rainfall, risk of bears. He was thoughtful, anxious, good traits. Ronan was the clown, beard, flannel, always had a story and a smirk. Bree and Ava had energy. They moved like they didn't remember how to be tired. All of them were close, too close. You could feel the years between them, the weight of memory and the way they laughed. I met them in the usual gravel lot. Shook hands, checked gear, distributed the cards. They read them all. Rule 5 got the expected reaction. Ronan squinted. A hole in a pile of rocks? Yes, I said. What happens if we look? You disappear. Seriously, I'm not joking. Bree whistled low before I reminded her not to and flipped the card over. I mean, Ava said, how would a rock pile make someone disappear? Same way a fire keeps the trail visible, I said. Same way the deer isn't a deer. They didn't laugh. They didn't believe me either, but they respected the tone. That was enough. For now, we set out. The weather was warm and dry, ideal. The hollow behaved itself for 2 full days, no whispers, no wrong turns. The trail ran straight and smooth beneath our feet, and the wind spoke in clear, constant rhythm. They were good hikers, shared weight, took turns filtering water, built fire without fuss. Even Ronan had the sense to shut up after dusk. I almost let myself think this group might make it through untouched. But that's what the hollow waits for, complacency. We found the pile on the morning of day 3. It wasn't dramatic. We came around a bend after a slow incline, and there it was, just off the trail, maybe 7 feet to the right. Small, intentional, 5 or 6 flat stones stacked carefully, with a perfect black hole in the center, the size of a softball, round as the moon. No leaves nearby. No fallen branches, just a patch of smooth dirt and the pile. The group stopped instinctively. That it? Bree asked softly. I nodded. No one moved toward it. No one speak near it. Ava stepped closer to the edge of the trail. Oh, stay on the path, I said. She froze. Ronan pulled out his phone. Don't photograph it. Why not? You'll want to look. He lowered the phone. Felix looked pale. It's just a hole, then leave it be. We circled around, quietly, carefully. No one looked inside. That day the woods felt thicker, the birds quieter, but we were intact. Night came, fire burned steady. Ava and Bree played a card game in the orange light. Felix wrote in a journal. Ronan sat cross-legged with his headlamp aimed at the sky, scanning constellations like he needed to memorize the stars. I woke just after 2 a.m. Ronan wasn't in his tent. I checked the others, still zipped, still sleeping. His boots were gone, so was his phone. I followed his prints as far as I could, just beyond the tree line, where the trail bent toward that rise. They stopped halfway to the pile. No return steps. No drag marks, just gone. I didn't go farther, didn't have to. I knew what happened. He went back. He looked inside. He chose. I sat by the fire until dawn, didn't sleep, didn't speak. Felix saw it in my face the moment he stepped out of his tent. He's gone, he said. I nodded. Ava refused to believe it, kept calling out his name. Bree stared into the woods for 10 full minutes, not moving, not blinking. That morning we passed the pile again. Still there, unchanged. Except now there were 7 stones. I didn't say a word, neither did they. We walked, slow, straight, silent. When we reached the parking lot, Ava threw her rule card into the woods. Bree didn't speak on the ride down the mountain. Felix mailed me a year later, just a note. It said, The pile isn't a warning, it's an invitation. He didn't sign it. I burned it, then went into the woods again. Because someone has to lead the next group. Someone has to keep people from leaning just a little too far, too close, too curious. Someone has to remember. Step around it. Never look inside. Ever. Rule number 6. If you see a deer standing in the trail facing away from you, wait. It's not a deer. They arrived late, which already put me on edge. A single Subaru, silver and smeared with dust, pulled up just as I was loading the last of the bear canisters into my truck bed. 3 passengers, all early 30s, all clearly more used to kayaking and half marathons than backcountry survival. One of them was wearing gym shoes. Their names were Emily, Dustin, and Shane. College friends turned co-workers, now on a mission to reconnect with the earth after too many years in offices. Shane made a show of flexing his calves and claiming he was training for an ultra. Dustin had a camera mounted to his chest. Emily wore mirrored sunglasses and rarely took them off, even in the shade. We didn't waste time with trail bonding. I handed them their laminated rule cards at the lot before we stepped into the tree line. These aren't trail etiquette, I told them. They're survival instructions. Shane skimmed it. What, like mountain lions? No, I said. Like the forest. Emily read each one aloud under her breath, expression blank. Dustin filmed me with a little GoPro strapped to his backpack strap as I repeated them one by one, especially Rule 6. If you see a deer standing in the trail facing away from you, wait. It's not a deer. He laughed. Is this like a test? Some kind of guide hazing? I didn't answer. Just made sure they all clipped the cards to their packs. We set off at 7:42 a.m. The hollow was quiet that morning. Not ominous, just still the way it gets before weather turns or animals shift. The bird song was low and infrequent. The trees dripped a little from last night's rain, and I kept a close eye on the path as we descended through the older part of the range. They were fast hikers, faster than I liked. Shane pushed the pace, clearly trying to impress someone, probably himself. Dustin kept stopping for footage. Emily trailed behind them both, earbuds in despite my warnings about situational awareness. We made decent time regardless. Stopped at noon near the base of an old fire-split ridge where the rocks were still charred from a burn over 50 years back. I made lunch. They shared jerky and smoked almonds and laughed about some old mutual friend who couldn't make it. The first sign came just after we broke camp and started hiking again. We were heading into one of the more remote stretches. Dense brush, sharp roots, no path except what I knew by feel. It was the kind of forest that didn't like being watched. You had to keep your head low, your voice lower. It was Shane who saw it first. We were maybe 2 hours past the ridge when he stopped cold in the trail. Hey, he said, look. I stepped up beside him and saw it. It stood about 20 yards ahead, right in the center of the trail, a deer, tall, still, facing away. Not grazing, not walking, just standing, neck high, ears up, motionless. Shane took a step forward. Is that a buck? I raised my hand. He stopped. Dustin and Emily came up behind us. Whoa, Dustin said, raising his phone. That's a clean shot. Look how centered it is. No pictures, I said. He blinked. Seriously? No noise, no movement. We wait. The group stared at me. I didn't repeat myself. I just crouched, slowly, right there on the trail. They hesitated, then followed suit, reluctantly. Shane kept whispering, It's just a deer. No, I whispered. It's not. He squinted at it. Looks real to me. It isn't about what it looks like. The woods were dead silent. Not even wind. The deer didn't move. Not a flick of tail. Not a twitch of ear. Nothing. Emily took her sunglasses off. Her voice was tight when she asked, How long do we wait? As long as it takes. Dustin sat back against his pack. We can't be serious. It's not doing anything. I didn't look at him. I watched the deer. Something about its legs. Too long. Wrong angles, just slightly off. like it had been assembled without really understanding how anatomy worked. Its spine bulged near the center, subtle, but noticeable if you knew what to look for, and I did. It was the same posture I'd seen once, years ago, before I knew the rules. The same posture as a man named Kyle before he stepped forward. Before he disappeared, Shane shifted. The deer's ear twitched just once, the wrong way, toward us without moving the head, like it heard his muscles tense. "I'm going to throw a rock," Shane muttered. "Get it to move." "No, you're not. I'm not going to hit it. Just scare it off." I stood, blocked his throwing arm. "You throw that rock, you'll go where it goes." He looked at me like I'd slapped him. Emily whispered, "Is this a joke?" The deer stepped forward. No sound, no bend of leg, just a shift, like a puppet being repositioned. I saw Shane's face change. He'd seen it too. That wasn't a step. That was reassignment. He sat down again. We waited for 17 minutes. Then the deer moved. It didn't walk. It didn't run. It simply wasn't there anymore. One blink and the space was empty. We waited another 5. Then I stood. "We're moving." No one argued. We stepped wide around the spot where it had stood. The ground looked undisturbed. No prints, no droppings, no scuff. Just empty trail and tension in the air like a rubber band about to snap. That night, they read the rules again. Aloud. No one joked. Dustin turned off his camera. Shane stopped trying to lead. Emily didn't put the sunglasses back on, and when we made it out 2 days later, they asked me the same question, one by one, at different times. What was it? I didn't answer, because there are no words for things that never break the rules themselves. They just punish those who do. Rule number 7, never point out anything strange to another hiker. If they see it, they see it. If not, let it be. They were newlyweds. One of those city couples who wanted a raw, unplugged honeymoon. I got the inquiry through my website 3 months after the last trip. The form was simple, 2-person wilderness journey. Remote terrain, at least 4 nights, must be off-grid, looking for something memorable. Memorable. That word stuck with me. I called them directly, asked questions, vetted them harder than usual. Their names were Sophia and Daniel. She was a graphic designer. He taught literature. They'd hiked in Patagonia, did the John Muir Trail the year before, and said they wanted something more personal. I told them about Black Hollow, gave them the real version. No soft language, no rebranding. They didn't flinch. We met in person 3 weeks later. I gave them the rules before we even left the parking lot. They read them both standing beside the tailgate of my truck, boots still clean. Daniel took his time with each one. Sophia read aloud, quiet but confident. Rule 7, never point out anything strange to another hiker. If they see it, they see it. If not, let it be. When she looked up, I said, "That rule's the hardest for couples." She tilted her head. "Why?" "Because people want to protect each other." Daniel nodded. "We get it." "No, you don't," I said. "But you will." The first 2 days were calm, beautiful even. There's a stretch of the hollow, between the broken ridge and a natural wind tunnel shaped like a horseshoe, that I've only ever seen behave twice. That trip was one of them. It was gentle, forgiving, the kind of forest that lets you believe you belong. We made good time, set camp early, built proper fires. Daniel asked a lot of questions, smart ones. Sophia was observant but quiet, usually sketching in a little notebook when we stopped. I saw her draw birds, bark, a weathered boot print. The third morning, everything shifted. It wasn't sudden, not dramatic, just different. We woke to find a thin mist creeping low across the ground, even though the sky above was cloudless. The wind had shifted east, which shouldn't happen in that corridor. Small things, off things, but not strange, not yet. It happened at noon. We were navigating a slow incline near a moss-laden shelf where water sometimes drips year-round. Daniel had moved ahead maybe 10 yards. I was in the back, Sophia between us. She stopped walking. I saw her head turn, slow, deliberate, toward the trees on the left. She froze, one hand lifted almost reflexively, then stopped, held there, a breath, then lowered. She said nothing. I said nothing. Daniel kept walking, humming quietly under his breath. I passed her slowly, didn't look toward the trees, didn't ask what she saw, didn't want to know. We hiked another hour in silence. That night, Daniel asked if we'd seen the colors shift in the leaves earlier. Sophia said she hadn't. I didn't speak. The fourth morning, Daniel was quiet, not tired, not sick, just less. He walked a few paces behind, didn't ask questions, didn't hum. Sophia kept glancing back. Once, she whispered, "You okay?" He nodded, didn't speak. We made camp on a ridge near a granite rise that overlooked a sloped tree basin. It was one of my favorite spots, reliable fire ring, windbreak, flat ground. That night, we ate in silence. Daniel barely touched his food. Sophia sat close to him. She looked at me once, eyes searching. I shook my head. Slowly, she looked down, didn't speak again. The hollow was quiet, almost pleased, like it knew the rule had been obeyed. For now. The fifth morning, Daniel didn't wake up, not because he was dead, because he wasn't there. His sleeping bag was zipped, empty. His boots were gone. His backpack gone. No prints in the dirt, no scuff, no broken twig, just absence. Sophia stood there staring at the bag, hands by her sides. I watched her, waited. She turned to me after a long minute. "He saw something yesterday, didn't he?" "I don't know," I said. "You do?" I didn't answer. She knelt by his sleeping bag and unzipped it fully, folded it like laundry, then sat on the log by the fire pit and pulled out her sketchbook. She drew for 15 minutes, didn't say a word, then stood. "Let's go." We walked out in silence. No questions, no mourning, just steps. At the trailhead, she handed me the sketchbook. "I don't want this anymore," she said. I opened it after she left. The last page was covered in cross-hatched pencil strokes, sharp, layered, frantic. The shape was hard to describe, not monstrous, not even unnatural, just wrong. And scribbled underneath in small handwriting. He didn't see it at first, but I did, and I said nothing. Like you told me, I burned the page, not out of fear, but out of respect, because she followed the rule, and because she knew it cost her everything. Rule number 8, leave a gift at the last trail marker before you exit. Always, no exceptions. They were strangers, not to each other, but to me. A rare open booking. 6 people who'd found each other through a wilderness meetup site. Trail veterans and solo hikers looking for something harder, deeper, wilder than anything in the state park circuit. They'd messaged me as a group, a cobbled-together crew of competent wanderers. The email just said, "We've heard of the hollow. We're not tourists. We want in." I hesitated. I'd never taken a group that wasn't already bound together by blood, friendship, or old pain. But something about this one stuck with me, like the hollow wanted them. I said yes. They met me on a rainy Thursday morning in mid-September, just as the first leaves started turning gold and fire orange. 6 of them. Irene, lean and wind-worn, the kind of woman who never asked a question twice. Elias, bookish, quiet, with trail tape wrapped around his wrists like bracelets. Marcy, mid-30s, ex-military, eyes like razors. Doug, a soft-spoken ultralight guy who carried the smallest pack I'd ever seen. Yana, deeply tanned, deeply quiet. And Reggie, a dad humor machine with a flask full of coffee and a bandana printed with a topographic map of Vermont. They stood in the gravel lot, boots damp, waiting without small talk as I handed out the rule cards. They read them, all of them. Rule 8 was the only one that made them look up. Leave a gift at the last trail marker before you exit, always. No exceptions. A gift? Elias asked. What kind? Something real, I said. Not trash, not something you were going to throw away anyway. Something that costs you. Why? Asked Marcy. Because you took something when you entered, I said, even if you didn't know it. They didn't laugh, didn't doubt, they just nodded. And we stepped into the hollow. It was a smooth trip, spookily smooth. No windless silences, no standing deer, no piles of stones, no voices in the dark. The forest gave us space. The trail bent gently. The sky held its breath for us. Cool air, light rain, no lightning. The group moved well, no arguments, no blisters, no missteps. At night, we built fires that burned clean and high. They sat close together, sharing stories that weren't small talk, real ones, things they'd carried too long, secrets buried so deep they only came out here, under pine needles and starlight. Yana sang one night, just once, a lullaby in a language I didn't know. Even the hollow seemed to pause to listen. By day 4, we were less than 2 miles from the exit point. The path bends there, just past a long gully where the trees thin and the world starts to feel normal again. The moss looks ordinary. The birds don't pause when you step on twigs. Cell phones start to ping, and right before the trailhead is the final marker, an old piece of stacked stone, part of a boundary post from when the area was surveyed back in the 1800s, eroded, half swallowed by roots. That's the place you pay. We reached it around noon. I stopped, said what I always say. This is where we leave something behind, something that matters, something honest. The hollow gave us back our lives. It doesn't ask for much, but it always asks. They stepped forward one by one. Doug left a hand-carved bone whistle, said it belonged to his grandfather. Yana removed a bracelet of wooden beads, whispered something as she placed it at the base. Marcy left a field knife. The blade was worn, the handle carved with her unit's insignia. Elias set down a pocket-sized book of poems, taped together, stained with use. Irene pulled a pendant from around her neck and laid it on the stone. Her eyes were wet. Reggie stood last. He held nothing, just looked at the pile of offerings, then shrugged and stepped past. You don't think it really needs anything, do you? He said. I opened my mouth, but it was too late. He walked through the tree line and onto the gravel. The hollow didn't react, not at first. We all followed, 6 in, 5 out. He was there, he was right there, and then he wasn't. No sound, no blink, one step between shadow and sunlight, and gone. His footprints in the gravel ended mid-stride. His bandana fluttered to the ground like a slow-falling leaf. Elias bent to pick it up. I put a hand on his shoulder. No. He stood. We all stood. No one spoke. Then Irene stepped back into the tree line and laid something else down. A silver ring from her finger. This one's for him, she whispered. We waited. 1 breath, 2. The wind blew softly through the trees, and the forest exhaled. I've taken dozens of people through the hollow. Most listen, some don't. But Rule 8. That one's different. It's the only rule that's about gratitude, not protection. It doesn't punish cruelty or arrogance. It punishes ingratitude. The hollow gives you a safe return, and you must pay for it. Something small, something true. Not because it needs it, because you do. And if you forget that, the hollow will remind you. Those were just 8 different run-ins with the 8 different rules. I have many more stories of many more groups of people. Same rules, same results with groups that either don't believe them or don't care. Most of the time, it all ends the same. They ask me why I still do it. People who know, I mean. The ones who've made it out. The ones who've followed the rules and walked away with their skin and mind intact. Not many, but a few. The ones who don't speak about the hollow unless we're alone. The ones who sometimes call in the middle of the night just to hear my voice and not say a word. They always ask eventually, why do you go back? I never have an answer ready. Sometimes I say it's because someone has to. Sometimes I say it's because the hollow calls to me like a wound you can't stop touching. But the truth is quieter than that. I go back because I owe it. I owe the hollow every breath I have, every step I've taken out of its woods, every moment I've stood between the trees and not been taken. I've followed every rule. I've watched others break them. I've seen them vanish, step by step, breath by breath, until there's nothing left but silence and a story that no one else will ever believe. And still I go back, because the hollow is the only place left that makes sense. It doesn't lie, it doesn't change, it doesn't bargain. You follow the rules and you live. You break them and you don't. That's the kind of justice the rest of the world forgot how to serve. It's not kind, it's not cruel, it's just true. That's why I laminated the cards. That's why I hand them out like a preacher handing out tracts to the damned. That's why I speak softly, walk slowly, and burn every fire like it might be the last thing keeping the trail visible. Because it might be. They ask if I've ever broken a rule, and I tell them no, not yet. But one day I will. One day I'll step wrong, or forget to light the flame, or feel too proud to leave an offering. One day I'll be tired, or angry, or just human, and that'll be it. I won't scream, I won't run, I'll just stop existing, and someone else will walk out of those trees, clutching a rule card with shaking hands and no idea how close they came. And maybe they'll remember my name, or maybe they won't, because the hollow doesn't remember you, it doesn't mourn, it only enforces, and in that way it's perfect.